Hey everybody, Puzzle Max here, and today I'll be doing an unboxing and quick review of a new puzzle I just got in the mail today from Skewb store. This one is a puzzle I'm looking forward to opening, taking a look at. As far as shipping goes, the package came quickly and was fairly affordable, but the box did get a little beat up along the way, so hopefully everything inside is a whole lot prettier than the outside here. Um, this puzzle is available from a few different retailers, and there are also multiple versions of this puzzle available, which I'll explain in a little more detail once we get inside the box here. I'll be sure to post links in the description to all 4 variations of this puzzle, so you can check those out for yourself. Let's see, nice and bubble wrapped here, so it looks like the box inside is well contained, well taken care of. This is a puzzle released by Skewb and LimCube. Funs Puzzle, I think, and LimCube. Got together to make this little thing, and it's supposedly going to be a really cool puzzle. Just from what I've seen and what I've tried on a simulator, I think it's going to be challenging, but not too difficult. Came with a nice little cube-in stand. I've got a couple of these already. They send them with a lot of their packages. Standard LimCube cardboard box, straight up, nothing fancy. This is the Funs LimCube Crucis 3x3 Skewb puzzle. This is very similar because LimCube has already released a 2x2 Skewb combination. This puzzle is despised by quite a few people because the 2x2 turns are kind of hard to do. But I've found that with some break-in and just patience, it's not a bad puzzle. It's not hard to figure out and work through the solve. It took me some time to figure out the solve on this one, so I'm hoping this one adds an extra layer of challenge. Inside this box here, we've got, looks like some spare pieces. I'm not sure what these go to. They're probably just extra internals, maybe some stuff that might break or something like that. And the puzzle itself. Slightly larger than I expected. This is 72 millimeters, so about the size of your standard 4x4, 5x5, 6x6, depending on brands and things like that. Packaged really, really nicely. Comes with a nice, clear, protective box. Looks great. And the stickers look good and everything like that. This is the version 1 of this puzzle, which is going to perform exactly like a standard 3x3 mixed with a standard Skewb. No fancy anything new. However, on the versions 2, 3, and 4, there's a different corner style, which means that that changed corner will restrict some turns of 3x3 ability, making it for some bandaging and things like that. So if you attempt to reduce this to a 3x3, that bandaged corner can also affect not only the reduction process, but potentially the solve process, depending on where you've reduced things to. I'm hoping that this turns a bit better than the 2x2, so let's go ahead and try the first turn here. A little catchy in spots, but as far as the 3x3 turns go, there's a lot more to help it align and things like that. I'm very happy with this. That's very, very usable, turnable. The Skewb turns are just as nice. So, as you can see, we've got 3x3 turns, some lockiness after making Skewb turns. That's my fault there. I didn't make that fully aligned again. You won't be finger tricking this puzzle. You won't be doing speed solving techniques or anything like that. But I think it's smooth enough for the 3x3 turns and things like that that you'll be able to do your standard algorithms that you know for your standard 3x3 solves. I have a feeling that the reduction process for this version 1 is going to be to reduce it to a 3x3. However, you could also reduce it to a Skewb and work from there. From what I'm seeing here, that little piece there, hard to see on camera, my crappy camera, I think that's what these little pieces replace. Could be wrong, but I think that's the replacement for these, so just an extra thing to note. It turns great. It looks really, really cool. It's going to look great on a shelf. And what I really like about a puzzle like this is, to an untrained eye, someone who doesn't know what they're looking at, a scrambled version of this puzzle is going to look like a scrambled 3x3. You're not going to be able to really tell much of a difference. But it's got some really cool variations. The other thing here, I think there's going to be the potential for 3 different types of parity on this puzzle. On your standard, any kind of Skewb mod, you have a corner issue because the 3x3 turns and the Skewb turns, you can have a single corner rotated. That's an easy fix. Solve it as a Skewb first and fix that. You'll also want to make sure you put the centers in the correct place, because these centers function just like your standard 3x3 centers. So I think that's going to be the case there. I'm really happy with the turning on this. It's a whole lot smoother than the 2x2 version. The other parity potential is going to come in the reduction of the edges. I think you could run into a false equivocation type of thing, where this green needs to swap with this green, and you'll have to do some kind of magic work there. And then at the end, I think there might be a third parity situation where you could have actually built one edge upside down, which would leave you with a OLL parity type of thing that would have to be fixed. I'm not sure about any of those. Again, I haven't solved this. This is as far as I've gotten. So those are just speculation on my part. One other thing, I do have kind of a mental process of how I think this is going to reduce and solve. So there could be some other things that come up while I'm solving it. I will scramble this on camera. For now, give me 1 second. I'm going to cut the recording here and take some pictures for thumbnail, and I'll be right back. And we're back. I imagine a little bit of lube on this would be a good thing, but probably not required. I think that it's going to break in nicely. I did notice there's almost kind of a clicky feeling where it kind of clicks into place at each point in the 3x3 turn. I don't know if that's just because of the mechanism or if there's actually something that's making that happen, but kind of a cool thing to note. The Skewb turns feel just like your standard Skewb. There's nothing fancy there. They're a little scratchy, but that's just something that's going to break in. I don't think I'll lube this puzzle. I don't think it's going to be required. I'm going to try a couple of things on camera before I scramble this. I think the way to solve this is going to be, once it's fully scrambled, solve it as a Skewb first. That way you can fix any corner orientation issues. And you want to put the centers in place. Then from there, I think you'll have to reduce the edges. My first thought on this is that this Skewb turn only changes this edge and this edge, which means if I can find an algorithm that will flip this edge and change some of those without affecting any of the other edges touched by that Skewb turn, I can reduce this edge, and I'll be able to move this piece from the bottom up to here. This piece will go into this position, and this one will come down to the bottom. It's going to mess up the corners, it's going to mess up these pieces as well. But as far as edges go, it's going to be a 3-cycle of those 3 pieces. I think that's going to be the process for reducing the edges. So if I do that, and my edge flip algorithm is going to flip this edge and this edge. This one wasn't touched by the Skewb turn, so I don't really care about that. So if I just go down, down, up, up, bring this. This is where things are getting a little catchy on the 3x3 turns, and that's just because this is an algorithm I've become very comfortable with doing finger tricks for. The Skewb alignment plays really key in making sure that things turn correctly, but I still think this turns better than your standard, than the 2x2 version. So we see that flipped that. Now I have this yellow that was here, that I brought up from the bottom, has moved up to here, and it flipped this edge, the red and white, but didn't pull anything out of position. it did mess up some of the corner pieces that were there. But now when I undo the Skewb turn, the only edge that's messed up is this one that's now green and yellow as opposed to green and white. The white moved down here, making this red and white. Didn't mess this one up, and didn't mess up any of the other edges. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be the technique for reducing the edges. And the technique for reducing the corners is very similar. And I think there's 2 versions here that will work. Let's see if I can find 3 corner pieces that aren't in place. I think there's a 2 swap algorithm that swaps 2 pieces and 2 other pieces to reduce the corners. It's going to be kind of tough to see on here, but I think what's going to happen is I can bring this red up to here, and then if I do a left-hand corner piece series, that brought the orange that was back here straight down to here, and brought this piece that was the red that I brought in, back here. Now when I undo that, I think that'll work. That's very, very just kind of speculation as of right now. That's going to come into play more when I start reducing and things like that. But I'm pretty sure that the algorithm that I've been using for the 2x2 version is not going to work because it's going to mess up my middle layer if I use the same algorithm. And since on the 2x2 version, there's no middle layer to worry about, I don't have that issue. So let's go ahead. I know you're all dying to see this messed up, so let's just start making some turns here. I've already messed up the edges a little bit, messed up the corners a little bit, so you saw some of that. The turning is not perfect, I'll give it that, but as far as functionality goes and just usage, I don't think there's any issue here. You won't find me complaining about a puzzle with this level of complexity that has some tightness or pieces sticking and things like that. I don't think it's worth complaining about petty issues like that when the puzzle itself is very complex, and as far as just functionality, it works. The 3x3 turns are definitely the bigger issue. The Skewb turns always work, but the 3x3 turns do have some catchiness and things like that. And it's mostly just a matter of making sure that the Skewb turns I've made have been aligned so that the 3x3 pieces can turn. So far, this looks really cool scrambled up. I like any puzzle that gives me stained glass vibes when it's scrambled is a good thing in my book. I've already kind of forced a couple of turns here by accident, and I think that you'd have a hard time popping this. From what I've seen on other puzzles that I've reviewed and things like that, I have a very gentle hand compared to some other solvers. So this may be a popping issue for some people, but for myself, I don't think I'm going to have any pops occur. And if I do, I'd be very surprised. So straight up out of the box, I think it needs a little lube. I said I probably wouldn't, but after working on the scramble here for a little while, I'll probably put a few dashes of lube inside. And that's just to kind of rectify some of the extra catching on the 3x3 turns. This makes me very curious about the bandaged versions on how their turning is going to work. Because anytime you bandage something, it can either have really good effects or really, really bad effects. So I wouldn't be surprised if the bandaged versions have some better 3x3 turning. Who knows? Again, there will be links to the Cube store where I purchased these for all versions of this puzzle. Take a look at it, see what you think. They have a really good description of the other versions and why the bandaging occurs on those, how the bandaging occurs. So as far as my first thoughts, overall opinion here, a solid puzzle. I like this. I think the solve is going to be interesting. It's going to be challenging. And I definitely think this would be something worth adding to your collection. If you have unique puzzles, if you have an eye for just different puzzles, but still using your basic knowledge of 3x3s, cubes, your standard types of cube puzzles, this is a really cool concept. Uh, I like it. I like the way it turns. I like the way it moves, and I really like the way it's going to look next to the rest of my collection. So I think it's worth checking out. And if you're looking for more descriptions or more information, check out the links in the description below. And as always, happy solving.